Joyce in Manchester, which was a jazz club, and they'd been playing at the Free Trade Hall with something like Ted Heath. And he came in and he went on stage to do a jazz set with some guys just for fun. And he started playing along, and all of a sudden everybody starts laughing. And then they suddenly realised he'd come on with a syringe behind his ear. And he mainlined in the dressing room, and then he put it behind his ear and came on and started playing. So that's the sort of thing those guys did. Like, it killed Tony Hayes. You know, there were so many good guys that went by the wayside. And what happened? Dickie got in with these guys. So he was doing proper drugs. Proper drugs. Billy was maybe on his marijuana, but it really was, with him, more for health reasons. He was told to. But Dickie was heavily into it. So much so that later on, Dickie had to have a lobotomy. Seriously, you know, a lobotomy was really that bad. But Dickie was a fantastic singer. Archive-wise, if you can go on, get YouTube and get Dickie playing and singing Slipping in the Slider, he's probably the best you'll ever see any British artist perform and sing. He was awesome, absolutely. So to answer your question, Dickie fine. Clem would agree. All the other guys, including Billy, would agree. But you know, another thing Billy and Dickie did, we were doing a Sunday night concert at the Gaumont in Wolverhampton. Is it the Gaumont? The Grand?
Yeah, somewhere in Wolverhampton.
It was Wolverhampton. And Tommy's roadie was a German guy called Boots. Did anybody remember Boots? He was a character, but he was Tommy's roadie. And Tommy had taken 6 weeks off for a holiday. And so Boots was assigned to looking after us lot, which was Bill, Dickie, myself, Johnny, Terry Dean, whatever. And this night at the Gaumont, or where it was, the Grand in Wolverhampton, I'm in the dressing room with, I think it was Terry Dean actually, and the door opens, and this guy bursts through, and it's Boots, as I say, he's German. They come and say, "They're fucking crazy! The bastards, they're fucking crazy! What are they doing?" I said, well, calm down. And what he said was that Billy and Dickie had cut their wrists and made themselves blood brothers. And that's how close Dickie and Billy were. I mean, if you see photographs, there's lots tonight, or a few tonight of Dickie, but there's lots about with Dickie and Billy together, because they really were blood brothers, and they thought the world of each other. But Dickie was an amazing artist.
Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Did Billy's father get round to appreciating it?
You know,
It sounds like he was quite hostile at the beginning.
he was initially, yeah, but I think a lot of parents were. My father wasn't particularly happy. It's just that he thought it wasn't going to cost him so much money to keep me. He soon found out that was wrong. But I think that's basically what it was. I don't recall.
No, I don't actually. No.
I don't even recall his mum used to come to quite a few shows.
I never saw his dad, did we?
No, I
really.
never saw his dad.
No.
I think his dad died quite young, to be honest. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, but no, never heard of his mum.
I met his mum quite a few times, never his dad. So maybe...
His mum still sings. I mean, Daniel's you've heard her sing, Daniel, sure? Yeah? She's got a great voice, hasn't she? 94, when we did this similar thing I mean, Mark was there, did this similar thing in Liverpool. She sang like a lark, didn't she?
Any more questions? Come on, Susan, you must have
I think the reason Billy didn't make it in America was because of bad management or down to his health.
Bad management, to be quite honest, that was one thing. Also, I mean, because we were asked to go to America when I was with the Tornadoes, and we didn't go because Larry Parnes insisted that Billy came with us. And unfortunately, the Americans said, "We've got hundreds of you over here." That was their answer, you know. Which was a bit stupid. I mean, well, you know, Cliff went to America and died nostrils upwards, you know, to be honest with you.
It did, yeah.
You know, bombed right out. I mean, who was Cliff Richard, you know? I mean, you've got hundreds of Cliffs over there, I suppose, you know, that's the way they look at it, you know. But, and also, no, it was bad management. I mean, the same with us. We had, you know, we had two queens looking after us, unfortunately, and they were at each other's throat all the time. And they could never, ever, you know, I mean, they could never come to an agreement, you know, and that was sort of the end of the road. The last tour we did with Billy, was because of Larry Pons and Joe Meek, you know, which is sad, but, you know, I still think it's a sad thing. Yes, love.
Sorry, Clem, can I ask you another question? The
Yeah.
Telstar movie all about Joe Meek,
Yeah,
where James Corden's playing you, is
yeah,
that right?
fat git.
Is
Sorry.
that
Sorry, no, not a joke.
is that a fair description of how it was?
Well, it's like everything else, you know, films, it's what they call
Artistic license.
They say, don't they? Yeah, up to a point. I mean, there's certain things in it. I mean, I was never with the Outlaws. I was never with the Hines' band. I mean, I did shows with Hines, you know, when he was on, when he left us and decided he wanted to be a star. No, but yeah, it was pretty good. I thought the guy that played Joe was very, very good. I thought the guy that played Hines was very good. And I thought the guy that played Kanky Cheney was rubbish. But no, I'm only joking.
One that's good looking.
No. It was fair. It was all right. You know, a lot of criticism that I got from people was the fact is there was no music in it. Well, there was, but it wasn't about music. It was about the guy's life. That's what it was about. You know, him, the way the business got to him and ended up topping himself. You know, that's what it was about. And that, in that respect, that was very, very, very near to the truth. Very much near. Anybody else? Questions?
Such strong ties to Liverpool, is there any reason he got buried in Mill Hill?
Well, he lived in London, didn't he, at the time, quite a lot. And why not? You know, fell up there about Liverpool. I played the Cavern Clubs with the tornadoes, you know. But what people don't realise, the Two Eyes were going way, way, way long before the Cavern Club. And I'm saying, again, back to what I'm saying, everybody thinks that music started when the Beatles came on the scene. But, you know.
If you hear
Bill talking from when he first arrived in London to probably 6 or 7 years later, maybe 10 years later, there's a distinct change in his accent. And he wanted, I'm not saying to lose his Liverpool accent, but he wanted to, shall we say, hone it to be more English because he felt it would be a hindrance with his job. And so if you listen to him clearly, particularly later on in life, he does just sound his H's and, you know, I mean, I love the Scouse accent. My daughter lives there. I've got Scouse grandkids and Dutch son-in-law. But he really did. He wanted to lose it to a certain extent. And I think a lot of it was to do with he wanted to do some acting. And he felt that if he had a Scouse accent, he could only do sort of Scouse parts. But, no. That was that. Any more? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, Billy did actually live in Mill Hill for a while. He lived quite near me.
Yes, he did.
Is that where Lisa lived?
Lines Avenue.
Was that where Lisa?
I'm not quite sure what years. I wonder if anybody knew what years he lived there.
But he was with Lisa, wasn't he, when he lived there? Was he?
I'm not sure.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
not sure.
okay. Any more questions?
Questions.
Yes, sir.
Were either of you there when Billy met Elvis Presley? And
No.
do you know how that meeting came about?
It was set up by the record label because there was a gold disc to be presented to both guys. So somebody did some really good wanking there, and they got Elvis to present Billy and Billy to present Elvis. Yeah, it was Palmer's. I've got to say, the only reason I will not totally admonish Palmer's was because I learnt so much publicity-wise from him. And publicity with him was king. And I've saved a lot of situations by publicity. For 15 years I was a cruise director. And I used to have to compile the program and do all this sort of thing. And I was working to Americans. And I'd learnt so much with Larry in terms of promotion and putting bills together and shows that I really had a very, very successful 14 years as a cruise director. And it was down to Larry, because, I mean, he did some crazy stunts. I mean, really crazy. I mean, with me, I forget who the person was that died. It was somebody high up in the government, or even royalty. But he told me to lose myself for 4 days. He said, whatever you do, and he gave me disguise to wear, he said, just get out the way, don't phone the office, get out the way. It was going to be pop star goes missing, and then girlfriends packed him in and all that sort of rubbish. And he was very good at that, in fairness. And so I got this bit of a disguise, put glasses on, and I went. First of all, I sat on the central line, the circle line, for about 12 hours, reading the paper. And then I got on a train, like Waterloo, and went somewhere down southwest or somewhere, wherever it was, and checked in a little guest house, and stayed there for 2 days, didn't contact anybody, and every morning I went out, in disguise, buying newspapers, looking if there was going to be headlines, pop star goes missing, whatever, you know, and heard nothing. And then on the 4th day, but I did notice that this person that had died, it wasn't Churchill, but it was like that, it was before Churchill. And I got, eventually, I thought, well, I'm going back to the office. I went to the office. Larry said, where have you been? I said, I've been bloody hiding. He said, oh, he said, the door went tits up, he said, because of so-and-so dying, and he lost all the press on it. So he was very clever. I mean, the best stunt Palms ever pulled, in terms of promotion and publicity, was mentioned in the movie, when he put Tommy Steele on at Bertie Green's Astor Club. Now, for those of you, and it looks like 99% of you, in the mid-50s, early 50s, mid-50s to 57, 58, when you went to a London nightclub, the top places, you went gentleman tuxedo, dicky bow, ladies cocktail dress, cigar holder, all the elites, that's what went. And you were in this smoky atmosphere, and it was something like Edmundo Ross, or some little jazz quartet or whatever. And this is what the nightclubs were truly like in London. And Larry Palms got in cahoots with Bertie Green, and he said, I want to put Tommy on for 4 days. You don't have to pay him. And they put him on for 4 weeks, and he was in the newspapers every day. Gossip columns, headline front page, and it was amazing. So what happened then was I was put into a club called Churchill's Club on Bond Street. And a similar thing happened to me. He actually pulled it twice. So Larry, you know, you can call him what you will, but he was a very, very clever guy. And the names he gave, as I said in the doc, some of the names he gave people were quite outstanding. I mean, Billy Fury and Marty Wilde, by far being the best. But he was a clever guy.
Getting on to what Vince said about Larry's being very clever, we got presented with a gold disc, and then about 3 hours later, there was a thing in the paper, Tornado's gold disc stolen. But I've still got it at home. But that's the sort of stunts you pull. But the thing was in the paper the next day about Tornado's gold disc being stolen. I had it. He gave it to me, but he never told me what was going on. I suddenly pick up the paper. Hang on. I said, well, I've got it. He said, shush, don't tell anybody. And then, of course, that was it, and I've still got it. I said, any more questions? Please.
I'll tell you another great stunt that Larry did with Marty.
We were doing the tour that Billy was discovered on. And we did the Soldo circuit, which was like a B circuit. You know, pretty crappy cinemas, but we were doing it. And we were doing Loughborough, a Soldo, which isn't far from my hometown of Grantham. Of course, I was the new teenage rage on the posters. So I had to go home to the parents and get them to come to the show, and they'd organised the bus and all this. So instead of going straight to the theatre on the bus, the band were John Barry and his 7. And there was Marty, myself, a comedian called Mike Coyne, and Pat Lawrence, a girl singer. That was about it. We were doing great business, and it was when we were doing Loughborough, I went up to my parents' house the night before and arranged to travel with them in the car across to Loughborough. And all the other guys were travelling on John Barry's bus. And it was the old BLAC buses, which were sort of shaped like that with a high back, and they used to put all the luggage underneath at the back. They used to run from the Knightsbridge terminal a lot out to Heathrow. You won't remember that, that's where the terminal was. But that was a fantastic coaches and perfect for gigging. And John's father, John Prendergast, owned a lot of cinemas in and around Yorkshire. And so he had a few bob, and he payrolled John to this extent to buy this wonderful coach and fitting it out. And we all travelled on this. And they're all travelling up from London on the A5 or A6 up to Loughborough. And on the way, the coach driver pulls over, and he pulls up the bonnet, and he's stopped for about 10-15 minutes, and he comes back on and he says, oh, I said, and he takes the fire extinguisher and he apparently blows it on the engine. And there'd been just a little bit of a fire where some petrol caught fire. Now, a guy called Chris Reynolds, who was our press agent then, he was in Larry's office and paid a lot of money to get us in the paper every week and girly magazines every week. He paid a lot of money. And Chris was telling Larry that we might be late. I wasn't with him. They might be late getting to the theatre. So be prepared to curtain up later on and put the shows back. Please tell the theatre. So Chris says to Larry, well, surely we can do something with this. So Larry comes up with a great idea. Oh, tell them Marty put the fire out and saved everybody's life. So Chris Reynolds phoned in about half an hour later, and Larry told him, slow down, take it easy, stop him somewhere on the way and get some bandages and some plasters, wrap up Marty's arms and hands, and when he gets off the bus, they'll think he's burnt himself and he's saved all the others. And Marty got off the bus in Loughborough, and all his arms were bandaged and his hands. And he got off. I was already there because I'd gone with my parents, and I didn't know what was going on. I said, what the bleeding hell's going on? He says, I'll tell you in a bit, I'll tell you. We shared a dressing room that night, and he told me. And to this day, very, very often, Marty and I refer to that particular publicity stunt of Larry's because it hit every newspaper, front page, second page, the lot. Got loads of publicity on it, but that was Larry's forte.
Question.
Any more? Or are we going to the bar?
Good idea.
It is, isn't it?
Well, good to see you, mate.
And you, mate. Let's hope, it means something to the British music industry, if you want to call it that.
And not
Yes.
the Beatles.
Yeah, we're not Beatles, yeah. No, thanks very much for turning up anyway.
Thank you.